I'm back with another video. So we're doing Mermaid Saga by Rumiko Takahashi. She, of course, the storyline and the art. This is a reprint of the series in English. I don't know if they have reprinted it in Japan, which, like Mizo no Koku and Urusei Yatsura, I know they're all being reprinted here in the States. That's all. Or in English, at least. Which, talking about Utena, I would like reprints in English because the older editions from like the 90s and the early 2000s, when they were published originally, are really hard to find. And if you do find sets of the series, they tend to be pretty expensive and pricey. But this series is her horror series. That's usually how it's described. It's about mermaids. But if you're thinking, you know, Little Mermaid and Ariel, think again. But before we dive into the actual story, I want to show you the edition I have. This is the collector's edition on the series. It's got a beautiful cover right here. I think this is Mana. She was kind of like the prototype for Kikyo / Kagome from Inuyasha. Like, her design is what theirs is based on, is my understanding. I found that out from a video. It's a really cool video. There's the back. There she is again in more modern clothes. And this is the character Yuta. And if you look inside, really carefully, I don't want to damage this. You have a mermaid right here, really pretty illustration, and a color page of the characters. You'll notice, oh shoot, I forgot to cover the mermaid. So for those of you who are probably more familiar with like the Little Mermaid version with Ariel, she wears seashells right over her breasts. Well, they don't. And I guess that always makes sense, right? Why would a mermaid worry about her boobs being shown? Anyways, but this video is meant for over 18 anyways, so actually if you're under the age of 18, you probably shouldn't be reading Rumiko Takahashi's works. There's a lot of nudity in it. Like, not just, there's violence too, in a few of them, but particularly in this and Inuyasha, but there's quite a bit of nudity in most of her series. Urusei Yatsura had some, Mizo no Koku has some, Ranma, Inuyasha, and this one, of course, I don't know about, I think there's one called 1 Pound Gospel, and or two newer series, Renee and Mal. I don't know about those ones. I think there's any nudity. I would assume 1 Pound Gospel wouldn't have any because it deals with a nun. Like, one of the main characters is a nun. Excuse me. From what I remember of that series, I might have a couple of volumes for that. I could be wrong. But anyways, let's look quickly. There's a really pretty image of them in color, and you do actually get a few color pages in this set. Oh, hold on. There we go. I've covered the boobs. But that's gorgeous, isn't it? That's beautiful artwork right there. Like, absolutely breathtaking. There's another character. And so you do get color pages of some of the storyline itself. I think we need art books printed. What do you about you guys? I would love some. Here's another one. Here's what I mean by violence. This particular storyline is pretty violent, so warning, there's a lot of blood. There's a lot of people being stabbed and killed and murdered, and you know, the two main characters of Mana and Yuta they're constantly being like killed. Constantly. But you're probably thinking, wait, why is she killing off her main characters so much? And how are they surviving, right? So, on the back, I'll read the back of this series right here. It says, they say that if one consumes mermaid flesh, one can attain immortality. Unfortunately, the more likely results include becoming horribly deformed or turning into a vicious monster. Even if one were to gain to gain eternal life, however, in such an anomaly, an unlucky blessing. However, is such an anomaly a lucky blessing or a terrible curse? Yuta, is the man right here, becomes immortal when he unwittingly ate mermaid flesh, and now he seeks a way to become human again. Hundreds of years later, he encounters a volatile and determined young lady named Mana. While searching for a mermaid, could this mysterious woman hold the key to saving Yuta's humanity? So yeah, very different from mermaids that you're used to before. They're actually pretty terrifying in this series. They like eat human flesh, whereas like Ariel was fascinated with humans, right? She wanted to be one. And you can eat the mermaid flesh too and become immortal. Even like using, like, you crush the bones of a mermaid and turn it into dust, that can have an effect on humans. So there's a character in this series that Yuta was in love with, right? Her name was Nae, and she was like a lady like 60 years before the events of the series takes place, and she died in a field of flowers that were grown with the ashes of a mermaid. Well, she came back. She came back to life. However, unlike eating like the flesh of a mermaid, there are consequences. She kind of goes mad having been brought back, and then she doesn't get to live as an immortal. In fact, she ends up dying again. But I like the fact that she was able to say goodbye to Yuta in the end. Yeah. I appreciated that. At least she was able to come to and regain her sense of self, and then was able to move on. But like I said, mermaids are crazy in this series. Now, it does mention becoming horribly deformed or turning into a vicious monster. Right? Well, are you ready for this? Let's look at these bits. Here's what can happen if you eat the flesh of a mermaid. You can turn into that. That's the monster, right? Here, that could happen if you turn in, or if you eat mermaid flesh. Or, I believe you can simply just die. And mermaids can pretty much survive a lot. Like, here's this mermaid right here. Stabbed through her body like this, and she is still alive. And they kind of like hack off pieces of her to use for things. It's quite crazy. Like, they take the blood of a mermaid And you do stay young and live. However, your body starts to like deteriorate. And also I feel like the mind did kind of too. Like here is the body being affected by the mermaid blood. Like, yeah, it saves you, it makes you live long and live young, but it's turning you into this slowly, which is crazy. Like, that. And her hair turned white. I'm not sure why her hair turned white. She had black hair, but then her hair turned to white hair. She really does draw a lot of women naked, doesn't she? But each chapter kind of covers, their quest to find a mermaid. Sometimes it's flashbacks to Yuta's past, and sometimes it takes place in the present day storyline of the series, which potentially might have been the early 2000s, maybe the 90s. Oh yeah. And it's a great series if you haven't read it. If you particularly like Inuyasha, then you will like this series. It's pretty dark, like Inuyasha can be at sometimes. I think it gives you mermaids that are probably close to what they are like in the actual myths about mermaids, right? Mermaids sing and they lure sailors to their death, right? Well, these ones, they like to eat the flesh of human beings. That makes sense, right? Wouldn't you agree? Like, why would mermaids care about human beings so much? Why would they lure people to their death with their voice if they're not, looking for some food, right? But I highly recommend this series. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's really good. Just like I said, be warned, there is nudity, particularly with the female characters. You're going to see a lot of boobs. It's just what it is. And there's going to be a lot of violence. Like I said, people are getting stabbed. I think some people have been, beheaded, get their arms chopped off, all kinds of crazy stuff. They're, excuse me. There's a lot of blood too, like you see here, a lot of blood drawn. In this particular version, there are some pages that are in color with the blood. Just a warning. And I forgot, apparently, as a mermaid, you can eat the flesh of a mermaid too. And if you happen to be a pregnant mermaid, it will help you to give birth to your baby. That's what one character does in the series. It's a flashback to Yuta's past where he ends up in a village by the sea, and there's another rival village that wants things. Then they're looking for a mermaid because the wife of the village leader is trying to get them to find a mermaid because she herself is a mermaid and she's pregnant and she wants to be able to deliver her babies. I think she had 2, look like 2 little tiny tadpole looking things that are swimming with her. And then Mana is given mermaid flesh because she lives in a village of all mermaids who, I guess, over time a mermaid will grow old, and in order to become young again, they need to eat a human who has consumed the flesh of a mermaid. Sounds confusing, right? But it's really crazy concepts in this series, pretty dark, scary things. These mermaids are monsters. Let's be honest, they're not cute, singing, falling in love with human mermaids. Don't get me wrong, I do like The Little Mermaid, just saying. But they're, not creatures to mess with, is what I think. If you haven't read this series, like I said, would recommend it. Check it out. What else? Yeah, I think it's worth it. It's a shorter series than her other ones. Just so you know, so far there's 2 volumes that have been released in English. Again, in this bound edition. It's been reprinted. I think originally they had 6 volumes, I want to say. So it's not very long at all. I think she does a good job with the storyline and the characters. I'm trying to remember if I remember what happened to Yuta and Mana. If they do end up curing their immortality, I can't remember at all. I'll have to get back to you on that when I finish the series. But I will say that if you're somebody who isn't a fan of like the longer series that she has, like Inuyasha or Ranma, I recommend this one. And I also do recommend Maison Ikoku, which is only about 15 volumes long originally, and they're reprinting it as well. So yeah, I do think there's an anime for this. I'm not 100% sure. I feel like I've watched it, but I don't know. But anyways, see you next time. Bye guys.